Clearly, Democrats are increasingly confident that Joe Biden will get over the line. Katie Connolly is a former pollster who worked with Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg, and she lives in Australia now and joins us from Brisbane. Katie Connolly, thank you for your time. As a former pollster, can I begin by asking what went wrong, do you think, with the polls?
So I think this is sort of similar to what we saw in 2016, which is, in my view, an overemphasis on these national polls, which really put Biden out with a very big lead. And as you know, this is not a national election. It is a state-by-state contest. And so when you see these big leads, as Joe Biden has in the popular vote, he's already got 3 million, likely that he'll get about a 5 million lead in that popular vote. Those national polls don't actually tell you a lot about how you map that path to 270. The other thing that I think we saw last time around that we saw this time around again is these forecasting models, you know, your 538s, the upshot, and they say things like, you know, Biden has an 80% chance of a win, right? That is a very different statement to saying he's up 2 points in a couple of these very, very tight states. That's, you know, margin of error stuff. So in looking at these 80%, 70% chances models, you're actually masking the true dynamics underneath that, which is to say it's a tight race. You heard Jen O'Malley-Dillon, the campaign manager, just a couple of weeks ago say our polling has us in a tight race in all of these key states. And in addition to that, we've had this sort of proliferation of polling outfits with very little record of polling, who are putting out polls day in, day out with wildly different numbers. And that kind of variation makes you very suspect about what's going on. So yes, it was a miss, and there's going to be a lot of sort of soul searching in my industry about what exactly was missed. And I don't know that we have those answers yet. I think it's still too early in the piece. But I do think we failed to learn the lesson of 2016, which is don't look at national polls. They mean nothing in this contest. And don't look at the forecasters. They're masking the true dynamics on the ground.
What about turnout? It's always difficult to read turnout or predict turnout in the United States, but this is a whopper when you look at the turnout for both candidates here. Is that something the polls missed as well?
I'm not sure about that particularly. I think what the conventional wisdom missed was the idea that big turnout automatically means big Democrat turnout. And that's not strictly true. And we've seen that in many states over the years. And I'm not quite sure why that conventional wisdom took root. But just because you saw big numbers did not necessarily mean you saw big Democratic margins. And I think that was a mistake in the lead up as well. But I will say that most, serious pollsters and most serious political analysts predicted exactly what we are seeing today, which is that you would see what they called a red mirage on election night, with a lot of that day of voting coming in early and tilting very heavily towards Trump, and then a slow trickle towards, the blue vote as the postal votes get counted, as the early votes get counted, particularly in these states, the big three, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where we knew the vote would take a while, in part because Republican county officials in those places have put in rules to make sure that it is difficult to count those absentee ballots and those early ballots. So, President Trump said to all his supporters, don't vote by mail, vote on election day, and they did. Democrats voted by mail, and we're seeing that now. And a lot of folks were saying, be patient, we won't know the result on election night, and we will see a switch to blue in the days following the election, and that's exactly what we're seeing play out right now. And that's what's happened in Wisconsin and Michigan, which CNN at least is now calling for Biden. But I want to ask you about Pennsylvania. Because even as I've been looking at this morning, just in the last half hour, it's narrowed again, and we heard Biden say he's very confident about where Pennsylvania is going. Should he be? Do you think this too, perhaps not today, but in the next day or two, will end up being in the Biden column? Absolutely, I'm very confident about Pennsylvania, and the reason why is where the vote is still out. So we have Allegheny County, where Pittsburgh is, and all of the metro area around Philadelphia, where Biden, even in the day of vote, is getting very big margins. That's only going to grow. The preponderance of those votes that are yet to be counted are going to flip very heavily to Biden, and I can see him making up that margin that deficit that he has with Trump right now and more. So I think I feel very confident about him taking Pennsylvania. All right, and I also think, you look at Nevada right now, it's also looking pretty good for him as well, though. So I think we'll have those 6 votes pretty soon too. We will keep an eye on them. Katie Connolly, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for your time.